Children working in hazardous mining conditions are deprived of their futures, while the environments they labor in are degraded beyond recognitions. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of On Rights, Crime, and Justice. Today we turn our focus to mining, a sector that is critical for economic development, especially in many developing nations like Africa, but one that seems to come with significant challenges. For instance, we have hard rock mining, which plays a critical role in raising the standards of living by driving economic growth. However, this progress seems to come with a steep price. There's a delicate balance between economic growth and the need to promote human rights, especially that of children involved in these mining activities, as well as the environment. We'll ask critical questions, hear from experts, and learn what we can do to combat this dual crisis of human and environment exploitation. Joining me on the program today is Kekura Kekus Kalma from the Youth Advocacy Program. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, sir. It's good to have you here.
A pleasure.
All right, so let's get right into the conversation. Considering that there's a widespread on the issue of child mining, especially in Africa, there's been a lot of laws that have come into place to combat these issues. Why do you think that this situation is still prevalent even up till now, considering the amount of international interventions and laws that have been put in place to protect these children and the environment? Why does it seem like this hasn't yielded much results even up until now?
Thank you so much for having me. And I want to say very big, thanks as well to Green Good Africa, trying as much to always give an highlight like this. And I think it's so essential that us as young people, stepping forward, taking the challenge to keep advocating as well, keep spreading the challenges as that of the future youth are facing. Um, so the first track to answering the questions you just put forward. I think the answers to it is very simple. It's basically the finance situation. Whereas so many leaders tend to pretend that they don't understand what's happening. But I bet you that most of these people came from certain backgrounds, which if you read their autobiography, you can know more the kind of areas they came from, meaning it's not something new to them, right? So looking at the solution, they know what to do, they know how to stop it. But the emphasis to which they try to put on not to stop it is because they are benefiting from it. And this has creates more pressure and is adding up again and again and again. And hence that is still in possession to whereas we see leaders are portraying to gain on their own benefit and yet still it's never going to change. It's just going to be like people be talking, acting to say there's going to be solution, but there's no solution because in regards to what they are benefiting from is what they don't want it to stop, which is the money. You go to East Africa, there are places. We see the recent trend of videos. I saw these days what's been happening in Ghana, where Chinese Chinese have been caught doing certain minings, illegal minings, and then position with kids, right? And then you go to Sierra Leone as well. The same issue is happening there. And then you go to Mali, the same situation is happening. But then Mali, as of now, is getting better because of the current regime they have. So now on the sector side where kids have been used like forceful labor is being demolished as we say. But yet still other places like Sierra Leone, for instance, it's still on the upgrade process. And the leaders know the problems, but yet still keep the activities to keep going on because of financial benefit of what they are getting, like I said earlier. So I feel to answer your questions, it's one of the split positions to which an equator is less.
For that insight. So when it comes to mining, there are a lot of environmental challenges that come with it, along with the economic benefits. So what are some of the consequences that come with mining operations, especially illegal mining operations, and where children are involved? What are the environmental consequences that we have seen from this particular issue?
Well, firstly, I mean, I could give an instance when I went to the mining area in Sierra Leone called Kono. It's mainly known for its, mineral, production, like globally, Kono district, if you might check for it out, if you get that side. So one of the key challenges is disruptions of kids to focusing on school, else lead to you to do all certain things like that. So the privilege to which certain kids to be at school, it's lacking, right? And then there are places they encroaching where, example, there was a school we went to do an undercover, um, shot where I was to say the land that was demarcated, where the school was actually inside of the mining, sector that was the area was already sold to a mining company. And for that reason, the school was to be evacuated to another location, this kind of a process. And this was during a school time, like a school period, right? And shortly was happening. So looking at that position alone deprives a lot of kids from pursuing what they've gone there for. So coming back to the question straight is the means of which gets the kids more challenging and the stress of which it gives them to say, okay, now I've been sitting at home for this long, I think I'm just going to quit and try to be doing something. And in between, for kids to really portray or focus to what really matters them to be at school.
Okay, yeah, that's very true. But like we've said, mining, as much as it has environmental consequences, there's also the economic benefits. So we can't necessarily say that they shouldn't mine anymore. So how do you think that these mining companies can ensure that they incorporate a social responsible mining into their operations, to ensure that the effects is reduced and the people are much more considered? What roles can they play? In what way can they improve their operations to ensure that there's social responsible mining in their operation, one that respects both human and environmental rights?
Thank you. What a pretty question. Apparently, the reality so many companies that have discovered in Africa, certainly what they bring down is with promises. And I'm sure, I don't know how strategically you put these things to the government. Is it the government that is not emphasizing to what they put on? Because I believe with every dynamic step like they try to take, in which they try to say, okay, for this period of time, we want to be mining in this place. There is a contract being signed. There is an agreement, terms and conditions to which maybe in those agreements that will be signed. For instance, there is a mining company that recently went to a village in a part of Sierra Leone. And few of the requirement were made. First priority were giving them good roads, providing certain facilities that the community lacks, which they took the responsibility and said, yeah, these are all things we're going to do. Like stakeholders we are on board have to sign some papers which both the community leaders and that of the mining sector agree upon. Um, the reality to which you said is right, right? Mining needs to exist as well in a small way. But the reality to life as well has to do with the benefit that these environments are going to give, and which should be a priority because imagine
Exactly.
doing
Yes.
agriculture back then, it tells you for each cutting down of a tree, there should be, what we call afforestation. In as much deforestation is taking place, you need to get as well afforestation, meaning you need to replant. And that's how we get expanded to see future generation come and benefit to know, oh, certainly need to exist. When I look at the mining sector, there are places partially they've already damaged, which cannot be resolved anymore. And these are other things as well they need to resolve into. Because if you go, example, you do it undermining like you go up to like 20 kilometers. You know what I mean? You need to have a structure to which how is it going to be resolved, whereas generation yet unborn coming will not be affected. I mean, we
Yes.
see what is happening in part of Asia where You see, you had all of a sudden today something just dropped and people just went underneath. And these are some of the issues. And it's now we need to be preventing some of these things. In as much the mining sector is, is considered. They need to do it in a way they can benefit as well, protect the environment, not only to say, okay, let's do this for the people who please them. But again, no, they need to prevent the environment for the future generation that are yet.
That's very true. So, and when you look at mining activity in local communities, we see that there's usually a pushback by members of those communities, especially those that are largely poor. So, and especially because they fear that this mining projects will contaminate their land and water. So how can the mining industry address these concerns in a way that would still build trust with the communities while still ensuring, sustainable development?
Well, I think I just made few, analysis. Basically, like again, I will take it back to where I said, in agriculture we have what we call deforestation, which is you cut down trees, and then again it implements what we call afforestation, in creating more trees as well, right? So looking at this kind of instance to what you just mentioned, is a key step to which they can do because there are places, of course, they go, like insular, for instance, it creates a lot of, a lot of pollution otherwise. Let's leave the settler, the means of the water alone. But the dynamite explosions, I don't know if you have experience of being where a typical mining is taking place, where you get these explosive things that is going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of contaminations that that occur. So I feel the structure to which they have to put in place, not only when it comes to water is a key necessity, but as well thinking of preventing, the environmental hazard, it's a structure to which they have, expertise that gives them advice, tell them of what to do exactly. I mean they know it better. It's just the ignorance to which they try to put to say, okay, these people are just here like this. Let's treat them like how we see them. That's the problem, what I feel. But in as more we're looking at solutions and ways, there are a lot of things that they have, which to your surprise you wouldn't imagine. Because imagine for every let's say means any sector of mining you want to take, they have consultants, they have expertise in those roles. Example, they have people that tell us about what may affect the water system efficiently as early as possible before starting any activity. I think these are key steps to which the mining sector needs to focus on.
Okay, so like we said, we're still speaking on the pushback that local communities go through. And I think that one of the reasons why the government has not responded to this pushback is because of the economic value that they get from this mining activities. So how much can we say that, because they criminalize this social protest against mining companies, and even almost some of these mining companies use private security forces that are not always even respectful of human rights to protect their activities. So how do you think we can balance the need for economic development that comes with mining with the protection of rights of both the environment and the occupators of that particular environment? How can we balance this need?
Well, definitely to that point, I feel that's where the added of responsibility of a government comes in. Um, if to look at the whole scenario that is happening, sometimes people be saying, no, we shouldn't be blaming the government. No, the government is like a dad. It's like you being a dad or you being a mom. You are the head of a house where you supervise your kids. You know what I mean? You need to try to understand how is the other one feeling today because you know that the needs for your kids to getting a better growth in life. You need to be there to guiding them. No, sometimes we look at like we be controlled, but no, we just be in the direction of trying to be on the right path. How our lives are going to become, in the future. So that's exactly when it comes to government. And when you look at the result that we try to make us as citizens, we always try to put people there, not because of we want to put them, no, but because we have expectations that it can make things better. Not like it's going to be changed overnight, no. So when it comes to government, that's their key responsibility. because these mining companies that are coming, of course, they are helping as well. I will not lie,
Mm-hmm.
because they
Yes.
create jobs for most youth as well that are
Yes.
being unemployed. And the government, if we have to be honest, around Africa, cannot definitely be able to employ every youth, every
Mm-hmm.
person. But these private entities that are coming of helps in that. But in as much we are saying, you cannot be creating more harms than good as well. That it
Mm-hmm.
means,
Yes.
see, I mean, you're not trying to go forward, you're trying to go backward. And that's where the necessity comes.
So let's go on to the next question. We're still speaking on economic benefits that come from mining and all. So, but when we look at the benefits, it seems that there's a wide gap between the people that actually benefit from this mining activities and the people that own it. Because the question is, who benefits economically from mining activities and who bears the environmental cost? Because now it seems as though the government and the private mining companies are the ones that are bearing, this benefits, while the people living in those communities are the ones suffering environmentally. So what does the government need to do differently to ensure that local communities see much more of the economic benefits rather than just bear the burdens that come with mining?
Well, I feel, just like I was very straight to it before, I had a little technical issue here. The government has all this, we've been talking about. They have all the emphasis, they have the power, they have the audacity, to push those private entities, those mining companies, to say, you know what, in 20 years of contract that you guys have signed to like trying to mine in this particular area, this needs to be executed, right? And doing these things helps with all what we've been on here to talk about. Because at the end of the day, this one happens even when the human rights steps in. Like I imagine, because most of the time I'm with Amnesty International and be on other different activities as well. They try to put on, and these are key fights that always goes across. Other human rights organizations, we try to push as much to do the fight. But if the government they really persuade everything to be executed, and then it's like you put in more endeavor, and then there's less of what you expected to come in, which at the end of the day is very sad. So the key reality here is we need to really keep on holding government to making sure they go after them. Because they really you cannot go, try to get rid of them. It's going to take a whole generation of time. But if government steps in with key legit, portions of what these people need to do. I'm sure it's be executed. It will definitely be executed. And recently it happens too. We are in there was a mining company that was violating, a lot of rights of the community stakeholders. They put across like, okay, now you guys we agree on everything. There's one thing you guys want to breach, which is we told you guys to give employment. Like 80% need to be people from our town, right? 80% of people need to be from this town. But now you guys want to bridge it up. You want to employ those 30%. And you should bring the people from every other part else. So if that's the case, this this contract is going to be terminated. So by the end of the day, this is what happens. When the government steps in, there was a dialogue. You understand what I'm saying? So the part of which government really needs to play is very huge, and that is something they need not to sleep over. They need to emphasize and try to protect their people, try to protect the environment, not for again maybe the present generation, but generation that are yet unborn as well.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. Most of this small scale mining, they're often unregulated, and usually they involve some of the world's poorest people, leading which has led to this child labor issue that we see today, as well as unsafe conditions and environmental damages. What are some of the solutions that we can prefer to better regulate this small scale mining and protect both these children as well as the environment that's involved?
I feel the one thing that needs to be a priority is sensitizing our people. The effects. When I mean the effects, I mean the after effects to which maybe just want to go in without thinking about consequences. And I feel if we start taking those steps where we can try to help the people down there being able to give them these good education so we need to understand that okay, facing this sort of thing is an impact to one's life. But the side effects to which is going to affect you, I feel that should be a key role that needs to be played. Because I mean, like you said, looking at what is happening, most of these mining sectors happens in like some of the most remote areas you would
Mm-hmm.
imagine. So
Yes.
that's the instance to which people take as an advantage, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they know nothing. So you see, so which is very, very sad. So I think if we start to really, educating people from down there to say, hey, look, for now, this is this. For the reality to this is what is going to happen in 10, 15 years. And I feel with that, it helps both, the parents, it helps the child as well. So, to really understand the side to which they really want to go in. And I mean, earlier on, let me throw back when you mentioned about these companies taking private security, threatening and all that. It's been happening, whereas we see it's the same people again from certain part of the government that's
Mm.
really empowered these people to violating, the community rights
Yes.
and all that. Because if you imagine you in your own town and somebody from far comes to start threatening you, it's because they have a grounds of which they can fight you harder. Because trust me, I will not leave where I am at the key things and key challenges that I was, emphasizing that the government.
Okay. Let's take a short break now. And when we come back, we'll look at how we can balance the economic development that comes from mining with environmental sustainability. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Mr. Kekura, when we look into this conversation, it brings about a growing call for more sustainable mining practices. What sustainable frameworks or initiatives can we say is currently in place or need to be created to improve the social and environmental impact of mining?
Again, I will emphasize to say educating our people down there in as much as we're all going off. Example, you're on the camera, I'm on the camera here. You know, I overheard when you were trying to help the other gentleman, telling me, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And likewise myself, I remember when you were telling me, okay, you flip the camera this way, you flip it this way. It's all about helping to teach someone something. Not afraid I might know it, but the reality to which it can be okay for both I and you needs to be a cordial, kind of direction. So I feel it's a key step to which we need people way educated, more wealth, more, um, more connection of which they have. So use these things to put it forward. And I feel with that, any other thing else that is aside coming in can be achieved. But else than that, it's going to be really tough. No matter how much we try to provide solutions,
Hmm.
if the education is lacked, we people need to understand the consequences.
Yes.
And I feel it's a growing alarm to which is really, really scary. So the one key thing that I'll put straight to you is educating people not only about the potential benefit, but as well some of the the after effects to which these things are causing and all that. We need to be able to making sure everybody understands, the reality to what's going to be happening in the next 5, 10 years, next 20 years, and something like this. And then the other thing I feel I'll put across it is our government need to hold themselves accountable. Whereas the short, they are lacking means to go there first on the ground to give a surface to which these people want to come and do. How is it going to really affect not only to look at the potential benefit, but affect the lives of many people that might be living in these areas. So I feel that's another key thing. I would just come to you and say, "Oh, I want to come on mine." You say, "Okay, what are your plans?" I tell you my plans. Okay, this is the place I want to go mine. I'm just telling you, you aren't making effort to say, okay, let me go supervise. Let me go see this place exactly. Where are you talking about? How is it going to cost? How is it going to affect the people? So I feel going on the ground is going need to be a priority to which our leaders, people in power, need to be doing as well. Not just to be in the offices, not realizing what is really going to be happening. They have to go down there and see what these miners will be doing, how is it going to affect the community as well. And I feel some of these key things will really help to dissolve future damages, future troubles, and try to reduce a lot of this pressure we are having to do with child labor that is still on the rampart and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now finally, let's look at post-mining activities. After mining ceases, the land is often left degraded. What do you think the mining industry can do to improve their post-mining land use and to design closure strategies that will be able to restore the ecosystem that has been lost and to ensure that sites still have a valuable second life after all those mining activities are done?
Okay, so this is the thing, right? I keep imagining how people get basic education, how people go to tertiary, go to university, go to colleges, go to different institutes to be really educated. And sometimes I put it forward. Certificates are really, they are very relevant, very essential, but critical to all what we try to possess. Experience is the best teacher as well.
Mm.
Meaning some of the things we did um, at school, we did a lot of things called practical ones. It gives you, a stance to which you need to understand the fact of what you're doing. And every piece of this with it goes with you doing that experiment to making sure you try to practice what you've been told or what you've been taught. Well, now, the mining sector in particular, like I said earlier, have expertise, meaning that's their field. They've been in for, ages. They went to various places where they feel they can get knowing more about what they are doing. So in as much to that, let's say maybe most of these people have forgotten these things and how we can put it straight. An instance, like I put it straight back, I'm going again with agriculture when I talk about afforestation. They have all the sense to say, okay, when we cause this damage, this is what we can do. Example in Japan. Japan, and instance, has a lot of underground subways. They have a lot of standard of houses on the ground in Japan. You check through it. So is it a crime? Even it's a pleasure man can make some soft standard of but they can. They have the power, they have the equipment, they have the finance as well. So it's sometimes I feel it's just like they be like, okay, no, let's treat these people how we see them. But in some reality, if you look at what's happening, like instance I need to Japan, they have some standard of subway schools on the ground. They have churches on the ground. So these things can be developed. Just like if not being wicked and selfish and looking at us, oh, these people they are up to, no good like that. There are a lot of things they can structure in these places. People can still come and live there for ages upon ages of time in life. But just like I said earlier, now the fact of the matter is people be seated in certain places, give a guarantee to these people and say, okay, you guys can go ahead and do whatever thing you want. But if structure wise, they monitor some of these things happening across the world, they can easily put it across to them. Okay, now after mining here for 20 years, what are you guys going to put in place? If they didn't bring
Mm-hmm.
anything
Yeah.
sustainable that makes sense to you as an individual, you can assume put something across. That's why they talk about having an interest for your citizens or having interest for your people. You don't only look at what I'm going to get. Like when I'm here, I'm not just going to be talking for myself. I have to talk for youth. I have to talk for young people out here right now that are going through a lot. You understand what I'm saying? So If only people have to try to be doing these things, I feel we can have a better environment. We can have a sustainable growth as well. But in as much people are pretending to just benefit themselves, you give me $1 million, good. Do whatever thing you want to do. That has to be a limit because stop is an understatement if I have to use it. But it has to be limited. We have to put the interest of our community. We have to put the interest of our society. For us today, we are living. But yesterday, we're going to go. We have future generations that are coming. So these places need to be a potential place as well, where as it will be a scary place. Like there is a place I mentioned to you earlier, which has been on a mile, like 20 miles underneath.
Mm.
Imagine in future how that's going to be. What disaster is it going to cause if
Yeah.
somebody go try to build on top of that kind of places,
Mm.
not knowing the consequences. So
Mm.
some of these key factors have to be put in place, has to be imposed on this mining complex. Let's know something you want to do here. You can build a factory, you can build whatever thing, develop it in this particular place. So I think that will be a key step to, helping us in all this, things we're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So that's about the questions we have for you. But before we let you go, do you have any final words for us, especially for the viewers who are just consumers? What can they do differently? They're not in government. Just final words of information and just for us to take away with on this program.
Thank you so much, host, for having me, and I give a pleasure as well to the team, Green Good Africa. It's been amazing, being with you guys, the motivation. And some of the times I tell myself, it's all, little drop of water make an ocean. And I feel we're going to get there. In as much to say the consumer, like you said, has no power, has power, but not has that much more of a power to which they can change it. But as well, I tell them this, that they can change it, they can help into it. Some of the ideas which we are sharing here can be taken in and given out to these people as to say how best we are, because we all are here. We're not out of here, we're here. And we want to need to see how the future is going to be. Because every day you sleep and wake up is, to see a better and brighter future. Nobody prays and say, I want to see, the darker future. I want to see, the other side of the future. You say, I want to pray for the best and see a brighter future. So in as much you believe in that you want to see a brighter future, in as much I want to encourage each and everyone out there to be self-determined, to put in out what you believe will help the future. Not what will not help the future, but all what we believe that will help the future is what we need to drive us to put front. And it says, tell a friend the truth doesn't spoil the friendship if really they mean the good for you. And I feel that's going to keep us all being what we want to be in reality, conscious free, and then with a pure mindset to which you can be in a safer as well, in a safer zone, and I can be in a safer zone too. So, with my little final saying on behalf of my team, the advocacy program, and of course myself, and of course the rest of the people that have been watching and listening, I want to say a very big thanks as well to team, Green Good Africa, and as well to you, Madam Host, and of course the cameraman down there. I want to say thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kekura, representative of Youth Advocacy Program. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. As we look ahead, we must ask ourselves how the mining industry can become more sustainable. As these sustainable practices are not just important for the environment, but essential for the long-term success of the industry itself. Children working in hazardous mining conditions are deprived of their futures, while the environments they labor in are degraded beyond recognitions. By understanding the link between human exploitation and environmental destruction, we can better advocate for sustainable, just, and humane practices. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. I'm Tony Ogubanjo. Till next time.